It's a good-ass day. What's up, dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts. John here with some more Yu-Gi-Oh! News / discussion video. It's a half and half because I didn't want to make a whole video just talking about one reprint we're getting. Didn't feel worth, so I'm just kind of combining them real quick. So just a lot of basic shit. You've seen your all your Ash Blossom reprint videos go up today. I know I'm late to the party, but I was at work all day, so I didn't get home until very late. And I mean, whatevs. I did just want to get it out there though, because how are you guys going to know that I'm on top of the news when I just say fuck it, everybody else hit them, they don't need to hear it from me. I want to tell you guys about it. But yeah, we have a common Ash Blossom reprint coming in the Soul Burner structure deck. It is confirmed for the TCG, and this is so good. I mean, this is literally just, thank you so much, Konami. Thank you, Co-Money. I mean, we saw Link Karibo when it came out as a common. At first, it was like $7. So how much would a Ash Blossom common be? I don't give a fuck. I'll buy 3 commons, and they will be my only Ash Blossoms, and I will love them. I don't care. It's better than $35 for super rares, if the difference is that much. Hopefully it brings down all the other prices enough. But yeah, so get pumped. Ash Blossom reprints. Hopefully they're nice and cheap for those budget players. Mwah. Love it. Anyway, we're doing our basic ass bitch fucking ban list prediction, expectation video, wish list video, all that shit. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to jump on here. Oh, whoa, what am I doing? What am I doing? There we go. All right. So I'm just going to go in terms of what needs to go, and then what absolutely needs to go, and then we're going to talk about, you know, what else outside of that needs to be hit, not necessarily need to go. So we're going to start with just absolutely what needs to be gone, needs to just not be in our game, Topologic Gunblar Dragon. And I know what, you know, people might think, if you're a combo deck player and you do like the Dark Warrior deck, say, oh, but like, Dark Warriors aren't even doing much in the game right now. They're not even topping that much. They're not even represented. It doesn't matter. There just shouldn't be such a generic card that, like, as long as you can spam, you can just make this card and loop your opponent for most of the cards in their hand. It just shouldn't be. Like, this is supposed to be an interactive game where it's you versus your opponent, not you. That's it. Not you go first and your opponent doesn't play, and you just attack direct for game. That's not what this game's about. This card just shouldn't exist. I'm surprised they even made this card. This card, like, stains the name of the other Topologic monsters. You have the other Topologic Dragon, and then you have Topologic Trisbane. I love both of them. I think their effects are really cool. And this one just taints their name. This card is just so stupid. Why'd they even make this card? Like, they could have seen what was coming. Like, Gokis were already, like, running the game when this card came out. It's so dumb. But yeah, it just needs to go. Just shouldn't be in the game. Another card is Rongo Miniad, and you may say, like, oh, but Rongo isn't as you lose against Gunblar, because at least, like, with Rongo, like, you may still have 6 cards going second to at least, like, stall out the Rongo and maybe, you know, just stall them out of materials until eventually you can combat it. But still, it's just a card from a time that no deck was fast enough to be able to really abuse this card, and it just felt the cracks, especially level 4 Warrior specifically. And now we're just at a point where, like, we have a card like Gossip Shadow that works too good with this card, and it's just a card, like, there should just be no monster that can be unaffected by anything and your opponent can't summon. Period. Like, it just shouldn't. There just shouldn't be anything. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh's a game about monsters and spells and traps, not spells and traps and no monsters. It just shouldn't be here. This is like, there should be other win conditions. This is not a good win condition for the game. Another card is Soul Charge. This card should never have come back in the first place. It's just wrong. This card just, like, demotes skillful play. It just says, like, you don't need to give a shit about anything if you're playing a combo deck, and as long as, even if your opponent hand traps you 3 times and you end up with, you know, 4 monsters in the graveyard and no monsters on board, doesn't matter, because you just activate Soul Charge and do it all over again, and your opponent used 3 cards out of their hand, and you essentially went untouched while your opponent lost 3 cards in hand. So it's just wrong, and it could be up to like a +4, which is just stupid. We shouldn't have a card this powerful. It's just wrong. Like, you don't need your battle phase if you make an unbreakable board. and your opponent has no resources to out that board. Hey, and then the last card that absolutely needs to go is probably Galaxy Tomahawk. And this card is like a weirder... Oh, one more thing. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I did want to add this. For a card like this, like a spell card, with like cards like the Dangers now out that let you literally like draw through your entire deck, you literally have like such a good chance of seeing this card in everything. It's not just a one-of that you have to draw, that you have to like open, and then it's good. Like literally the Dangers make it so that like they double, even triple sometimes, depending on the duel, the chances of seeing this card. At that point, it's not even really a one-of in terms of consistency anymore. So we just can't have cards as powerful if we have engines like the Dangers that just let you draw through your entire deck. Even if it's a one-of, you still have too good of a chance to see it with engines like that. So card needs to go. And then the last card here that absolutely needs to go is probably Galaxy Tomahawk. This card is just too abusable. Again, we've got Dangers that are level 7s. We've got cards like the Ascendant of Thunder that just special summon itself for 3,000 life points. Like we just have too many cards that are just like 7s that can span themselves. And the main thing here is that just this just restricts card design so much. Any archetype that Konami wants to come out with that plays level 7s that can get on the board relatively easy because they think like rank 7s are kind of cool, Big Eyes kind of cool, all the spellcaster rank 7s are cool. It just doesn't matter because nobody's going to play those. They're just going to play Tomahawk and make some stupid link play that has nothing to do with like what their deck is supposed to be about in the first place. It's just not good. It's just any deck that plays 7s, they're going to throw Galaxy Tomahawk in it. So I think this card needs to go just so card design and future deck design can, spread out a little more. Let's drop that. Oh, I'm sorry. There is one more card. Summon Sorceress. This card needs to go because eventually we're going to get Needle Fiber. It just has to happen. That's how the game is. We're going to get it eventually, and we cannot have both at the same time. That's just too easy. It's too broken for any deck. Any deck that can just make Needle Fiber can make Summon Sorc. So this card cannot exist. They can't exist at the same time. This card could literally be here until literally Needle Fiber comes out, but it needs to go at that moment. They cannot be here at the same time. And this card, even by itself, is still like degenerate. It still might be more degenerate than Needle Fiber. It's so incredibly crazy what this card does. So my vote would be to just ban this card now because everybody's speculating that we're going to get Needle Fiber in Savage Strike. We still have a good handful of cards that have not been announced for it yet, and that may be the finalization of the hype for the set. We don't know yet, but if it is, this card needs to be gone by then. Then we move to decks that sit atop the Yu-Gi-Oh! Metagame that probably need to be hit down. And I don't think we have any decks right now. And this is one thing that I do like about our current format is that I don't think we have any decks that are just like, deck needs to go. Fuck that deck. We got no Zodiacs. We got no Spirals. Nothing like that. No Tier 0. No stuff like that. And there's only 3 decks that are like arguably Tier 1. I mean, 2 that you could probably have a pretty strong argument for Tier 1, and then 1 that's like on the verge. And the first deck of that is like Thunder Dragons. We just saw very recently that Thunder Dragons have started to overtake Sky Strikers. I mean, I'm sure I could get into arguments with people on which one is actually better, and I wouldn't feel too strong one way or the other because I think Sky Strikers still flood the top cut, but they haven't been winning, which is kind of cool because I like it when not the top deck wins. But Thunder Dragons have been killing it. We just saw a whole new development in the deck, playing Dangers, playing weird new engines, and that might be the way to go, but because the OCG doesn't have Dangers, I'm worried that might be the difference in what can put our Thunder Dragons higher than their Thunder Dragons ever were, ceiling-wise. So I think following in suit to what the OCG has done is probably the best way to go, at least hitting Gold Sark down to 1. That's a big consistency hit / extending hit. Even if it's a card they don't need in their opening hand, it's still a nice extender to just resolve, to just get a search right out the gate or get a special summon, depends on how you want to use it or whatever. So that's really cool. Gold Sarcophagus, probably down to 1. I still don't think it's so busted that it needs to be... It's like Foolish Burial. It's just like a different version of Foolish Burial, so except a little less versatile. So I don't think it needs to go, for sure. But down to 1, just to hit the consistency and extendability of the deck, for sure. And then another card I'm not positive on, but I was thinking about, I was like, what if Colossus just goes to 2? I think if it goes to 1, it's a little too fragile, because then, like, making Titan is, like, stupidly not even, like... a thing you're going to do. But hitting Colossus to 2 really like messes with the way they work. If you do out like a Thunder Dragon board without bouncing their dragons back to the extra deck, if they do still go to the graveyard or something, they may just be sitting there like, what the hell? I can't do anything. I can't do anything. I'm screwed. So I would think it'd be interesting if Colossus got hit down to 2 along with that. Curbing the ceiling and weirding out the resource game, like past turn 1 for Thunder Dragons there. So then we're going to move to the arguably other best deck in the game right now, is Sky Strikers. And I think this is just classic. Like, OCG knows what they're doing. They do good jobs on their ban list. Gauge is the most broken card in the entire archetype, but I don't necessarily think hitting consistency is the way to go, because like hitting consistency is not really what wrecks Sky Strikers. Like, I mean, I think it would wreck them too much. You know what I mean? If you're trying to curb the power a little bit because you still think they're a healthy game healthy deck for the game in general, but you don't want to just like erase them completely. They've been here for a while, but I don't even think players that don't play Sky Strikers hate them that much, because they're not a deck that just rules over everything. They play a resource game pretty well. It's a cool control strategy that takes skill to play, and I think it's good for the game overall. But hitting Engage down to 2 is probably the best way to go about it. It's a really good card, and it's just really good consistency-wise. So maybe just curb the consistency a little bit by hitting Engage. Also curbs the ceiling, especially if you have 3 spells engraved, just being like Pot of Greed, but possibly better. And then possibly hitting Widow Anchor down to 2 as well. This is another like ceiling card, or what you can do to like play with Sky Strikers is to be like, hey, you still have all your consistency, but now you have to be more careful as your long game, because this is a grindier deck where they're going to be longer duels, and eventually you're just going to out-resource your opponent. But a lot of that stalling and control aspect comes from Widow Anchors. If Widow Anchors just keep ending up in the graveyard, if they only have 2 will last will go through way faster than 1, because a lot of duels you're on with 2 Widow Anchors on turn 1, and then you have none left in your deck. So Engage doesn't get you Widow Anchor; you have to get it other ways. So it does kind of curb the longevity of the deck, or how you manage your resources there. And then the last card is Kagari. We just saw Kagari get hit to 1 in the OCG. I think if they hit all 3 down to 2, that would be interesting, and that would curb the deck a good amount all at once, because that's not what they did. They did them like incrementally, I'm pretty sure, where like they hit these 2 first, or 1 and 1 and then 1. They just didn't hit them all at once. But if we hit them all at once, that may curb the deck just enough. Or we could put Kagari straight up down to 1. That's a whole nother beast. It forces the deck to play cards like Hercules base and stuff, because they need to be able to shuffle back Kagari should they need it. And there's other stuff too. So just, I don't want to kill the deck. I like the deck. I don't think it needs to go, but I think curbing the power definitely is the way to go. The power in terms of like longevity and how they manage their resources, so they can't just overwhelm you as easily as the duel goes on. There. And then we move to like the last deck that's like probably in the big 3 right now, or if you want to call it that, is Altergeist. Really the only card in Altergeist that really you could even think about hitting is like Altergeist Multi-Faker. None of the other cards really make sense to hit so much. But Multi-Faker is like the win condition, it's the centerpiece, it's literally everything. It's your best monster, it's your win condition, it's everything. You really need it. And if you hit it down to 1, then maybe the deck would really struggle. I'm not sure how the deck would function with only 1 Multi-Faker, because you already have sometimes Altergeist can struggle getting a Multi-Faker anyway with 3. So down to 1 would be rough. I'm thinking 2, because I think that's just enough of a hit, because they're already doing like well, but not crazy well. I don't even know if I've seen a single YCS where they've had, 10 top 32 slots. So they're far from running the game themselves, but they are still a good deck, and they have been here a long time, so I think it's important to make sure that there's a good rotation of decks. So I would like to just see the ceiling get hit, and I want the ceiling for all 3 of these top decks to get hit, so that the other decks that are like right there on the verge that you still see in Top Cut, that like Prank Kids, like Trick Stars, like Paleos, True Draco, Pendulums, all these decks that are right there. Burning Abyss is like maybe 4th best deck, especially when Cherubini comes out. That might be the best deck in the game, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, if you hit this down to 2, just hit the consistency a little bit. We also have Pot of Indulgence is the new name of the card that's coming out, which is a really nice card for this deck, more so than other meta decks, because like you can't play it in Thunder Dragons, the extract's too important. You can't play it in Sky Strikers, extract's too important. But you can play straight up 3 of that card in this, because other than their Link 2, I can't even remember the name of it right now, which you need 1 copy of, but you play 3 of those. So like you can banish 2 of them, but still have 1, and that can be enough a lot of the time for Altergeist, and you're still good to go. That's such a nice consistency piece that this deck gets, the other decks don't. So that could be another thing as well, hitting Multi-Faker to 2, maybe even 1, just because of that card. Because that card is so good in this deck, but not in others, that it's actually an advantage here. That could be really interesting. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, Multi-Faker to 1 or 2, I think, is probably best. And then the last card here that I'm going to talk about today is Trickstar Reincarnation. This card needs to go to 1. They did it in the OCG, and the deck is still like the 4th best deck behind. Actually, was it 3rd? It's up there. No, it's probably like 4th or 5th. But it's still like a really competitive deck, even with Reincarnation at 1. I just want Reincarnation at 1 because Droll and Lock is just wrong, especially when you don't play into it. It's one thing if you sit there in the face of Trickstars, you saw them like search a Reincarnation with Candina or whatever, and you still search the card to start your play, then that's on you, because if they have the Droll in hand and they Reincarnate you and Droll you, that's on you. But the fact, like, to when you don't even do anything and they can just Reincarnate you on standby, and that's pretty much game at that point, unless you're playing like Thunder Dragons or some deck that can benefit off of banishment, like, it doesn't matter. Like, duel's over. It's really wrong. So hopefully this card gets taken off the list, and maybe that would be the hit to incentivize Konami to finally release Caribbean, because I think every Trickstar player just wants Caribbean. It's a really nice addition to the deck, and I don't think they need Reincarnation as much. I mean, it's a good card. You still play it. It's really good, but it's just wrong. Like, that's another thing with, like, Rongo Miniad and Gumblar. Like, even if they're not amazing, even if Trickstars aren't on top of the game right now, it's still just a stupid way for any deck to ever win. It's essentially an FTK if you can get that off. And with how much search power the deck has, that engine, it's too easy sometimes. So I just don't think it should be a part of the game. And yeah, so Reincarnation, go. Needs to go. Alright, guys, that's pretty much all I got here. Let me see, is there anything else? Imperial Order, Skill Drain, Soul Drain, I think all of those should probably go. I'm not a big fan of them. They're just like too powerful, especially with like a card like Nightmare Griffin. We've seen Nightmare Griffin get abused a little bit, where people just like foolish burial goods or whatever, like use whatever card effect to send Imperial Order to the graveyard, then use Griffin to reset it, and then like they just lose if you're playing like Sky Striker. Like, it's too good. It's too powerful. Like, spells are in every deck. Cards like those shouldn't exist that just turn off all those effects. I know they play it off for both players, but like, if you have it, you're just not going to activate until you run through your spells first and get all your advantage and all the effects you need, and then you turn it off for your opponent. It's too good. I think they're too impactful that way. So maybe those to go as well. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I missed any cards here that should probably either probably go on the ban list. I could have talked about a ton of cards to come off the ban list, but that's a whole nother video. I literally wrote a list down here of like every card that probably could come off the ban list in some way, and it's literally like 25 cards long. So we'll get there when we get there, but let me know what cards you guys think need to go on the ban list, and at what capacity, to curb the decks that we have now, right there. Because I like the format we're in, and I want a similar one, but with a couple more decks fighting for that top business slot. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed this discussion, if you enjoyed listening to my thoughts on the whole ban list situation, give me a subscribe. Throw a subscription to the channel, and yeah, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Thank you so much. Peace.